All right, gang, I'm back here 6 days after my last episode. That was a good episode. Go listen to it if you haven't about the whole school shooting thing. But I'm moving on to some more things. I'm still talking about the guns and stuff, but I'm moving on to spending some time talking about some other things as well. So we're gonna talk about the Trump, what he said about the guns and why the Republicans in the House and why the Republicans need to keep the House and Senate. And Trump says some more things that just goes to continue to prove that he has no idea what he's doing in general, but this time it's about trade. So he talked about some trade things that I don't really necessarily agree with. So we'll get to all of that. Today is Monday, March 5th? Yeah, 5th, 2018. My name is Jason Riley, and this is the Riley Report. Okay, so we're going to start talking about the first thing today before I start talking about that, I want to start talking about something that I was going to put off to the end, but I'm going to talk about first, actually, instead. So I was listening to the radio on my way to work yesterday, and I was listening to the Chicks on the Right, which they're pretty good. I listen to them, whenever I'm in my car and they're on the radio. So they're pretty good, entertaining to listen to. So they told this story that I want to talk about. So they were in New York for CPAC, and so they were telling the story that they were at this great dinner. They had this amazing dinner, and they had this really good waiter, and he was nice and really friendly, and then he was a joy to have around the table, they said. And so he picked up on what they were talking about and figured it was political, and so he had asked them what they were doing in town, and they said, they had replied, "Oh, we're going to be on TV," not mentioning they were going to be on Fox News. And he said, "Oh, what show?" And they told him Fox, and then so he apparently basically just lost it. He started becoming this rude jerk, to pull back on profanity here. So, I don't think this is something that we should be seeing in America. So instantly, when you find out about somebody's political opinions, you just turn the other cheek and just you just become a jerk to them. I mean, I don't think you should treat anybody any differently because of their political opinions, just like how you shouldn't be treating anybody any differently because of their race, sex, or religion, anything. We should all be treating each other the same, even if we disagree with each other on policies and politics. We shouldn't be getting all nasty like that. And I feel like that's really important to hold our society together. We can't make everything left or right. I mean, I see it coming in all this Hollywood bullcrap, everything entertainment. I mean, go watch Jimmy Kimmel's show. We're continuing to split everything politically, and I think that's really bad for our society. So I'm going to jump into the news now. So Trump is leaning like left and right on some of these gun issues. So he mentioned having to do something now and called for quick action with regards to these gun laws. And so here I'm going to play something from a video from the Huffington Post about what Trump had to say on guns.
Take the firearms first and then go to court. We have to do something very decisive. Number one, you can take the guns away immediately from people that you can judge easily are mentally ill, like this guy. The police saw that he was a problem. They didn't take any guns away. Now, that could have been policing. I think they should have taken them away anyway, whether they had the right or not. A lot of times, by the time you go to court, it takes so long to go to court to get the due process procedures. I like taking the guns early, like in this crazy man's case that just took place in Florida. But take the guns first, go through due process second.
I'm sorry. So to suggest that we need to take the guns without any due process I think is absolutely ridiculous. That means that I can be like, hey, cops, my neighbor over here next door, I think he's kind of crazy. You should take his guns. I know he has some. So then just giving that without any evidence means they can go and take his guns from him. And then I think that's not fair. That's an infringement on our rights. But to have some sort of due process first and then actually provide evidence as to why this person's guns need taken away and then take away their guns and like the whole restriction, what's it called? The shoot, the gun restraining order thing, that thing. I like that. I like the sound of that. That seems like a good program that we could use. So, but this requires having a hearing within 72 hours also about why they should think they should have their guns. But this involves removing their guns when close family members, not just anybody, close family members report something wrong with them. So personally, I'm disappointed with Trump, and so are a lot of other Trump supporters. Then later when he talking after talking to the NRA and talking about their, I think it was dinner or lunch that he had with them, he turns and supports them again. So I think that Trump is doesn't exactly know what he's doing with this kind of stuff, and he needs to figure out what he's talking about. Somebody needs to talk to him. I mean, if you could have seen in that room if you watched the video, all the Republicans were like, what are you doing? So kind of moving on a little bit, but staying a bit on this gun topic, I want to talk about this video I recently saw that I would like to share about this police officer sharing when he was in high school about in his opinion on guns and what the problem is.
I can tell you, folks, I carried a gun all my life. I hunted, I shot. My friends and I, it's hunting season back home. When I was in high school, every one of those rigs in the high school parking lot had a gun in the gun rack. Why? We went hunting on the way home. None of those guns ever walked into a school. None of those guns ever shot anybody. What's the difference? Did the gun change? Or did you as a society change? Now, I'll give you odds that it was you as a society, because you started glorifying cultures of violence. You glorified the gang culture. You glorified games that actually give you points for raping and killing people. Gun didn't change. We changed.
All right, so that I saw actually on Instagram. It was Sheriff Ozzy Knazvich. I probably butchered that really badly, but I thought what he said was really correct. I mean, so when you think about it, I think when it comes to this kind of violence, so there's two big issues with it. The first one I want to bring up is the issue of mentally ill people. We need to do more for our mentally ill, and they're not receiving proper care, and obviously these kind of cause these kind of things to happen. And so next, a big problem is, like what he said, the culture. Listen to most of a vast majority of rap songs and hip hop songs we hear throughout today. This kind of stuff promotes stuff like drug use, sex, and killing, and these are not exactly things that fit into a well-being Judeo-Christian society, which I still think that following Judeo-Christian values is a good way to go, because those are solid values to believe in. So I think it's a lot of the culture. I mean, you see all these music videos and just the songs in general being about these kind of things, like he says, and like I just said, and the movies and all of this media and stuff is just full of it, and full of this violence, and kind of and definitely promoting this kind of stuff, and then making it be the cool thing to go and do stuff that's not cool, that's not good for anybody. So I think that's a really good point that he brings up, and that they had guns in their cars all the time. None of the guns ever walked into the school. The guns didn't. People brought them to the school today. That's all I have to really say about that. So I'm going to move on to this, back to particularly the Parkland shooting. So the Parkland shooting happened, and the media blew up about it, and is still blowing up about it. So, but what they didn't cover is actually the following week of that school shooting, 52 people were shot in Chicago. And Chicago has the strictest gun laws in the country. So put two and two together. Obviously, gun laws do not stop gun violence. I think that makes it perfectly clear. Chicago has the strictest gun laws and the greatest gun murder rate than any other city in the country. So I kind of think that's a good point to make. And also, every mass shooting happens in a gun-free zone. Schools that are gun-free zones, shot. All of these happen in gun-free zones. But kind of moving more to the political side about it. So this whole gun controversy, it is really getting spewed over and over. And more and more people are kind of thinking that we should ban these guns, but it's really not the logical thing to do. And then so this is why the Republicans need to keep the House and Senate. So America is in favor, so I'm going to talk about some statistics real quick. So Americans in favor or favor somewhat banning all semi-automatic weapons. This is American public, 55%. But that all semi-automatic weapons. So first, what I'm going to explain a semi-automatic weapon means when you pull the trigger, one bullet comes out, and you have to pull the trigger again, another bullet comes out, and automatically loads the bullet up into the chamber. Pull the trigger, another bullet comes out. You don't have to do much but reload after, say, 30 rounds go through, however big your magazine is. But that's a lot of guns. There are even pistols, several pistols. That includes pistols. There are pistols that are semi-automatic. That is a total of 300 million guns that exist. So when you look at just the Democrats, 82% of Democrats would like a ban on the all semi-automatic weapons. I'm sorry. So, and then we're going to look at banning all guns. 26% of Americans do. That's small, but I still think it's kind of sad that that many Americans want to basically just get rid of the Second Amendment. Banning all guns is literally just completely repealing the Second Amendment, just lighting the Second Amendment on fire. So amongst the Democrats, 44% support banning all guns, and 46% are not in favor of banning all guns. This is almost 50-50. It is almost 50-50 between the Democrats of banning all guns. So if you're going to tell me that the Democrats don't want to take all my guns, no, we just want reasonable gun laws. This is not reasonable gun laws. Banning all guns. When you're going to tell me that the Democrats don't want to take all my guns when they're split 50-50 to ban all guns, that is ridiculous. So I think that's something that needs to be talked about. And so that's why it's so important for Republicans to keep the House and Senate, so that they can't let these kind of laws get through and infringe on American rights and kind of begin the downfall of America, I think. So that's all I'm going to have to say about the guns and stuff like that. I'm going to move on to trade. So Trump does not know what he's doing with trade. You would think that because of his vast success in business that he would know what he's doing with trade, but he doesn't. His quote trade wars would not do much but drive up the prices. He said trade wars are easy to win. So tell me, what trade war has ever been easy to win? So if you're going to talk about boycotting some goods, so you got to look at like how you're spending. So if you're buying already the cheapest goods and you have to go somewhere more expensive, you're not winning. So if you boycott something because you think they're using you, you don't win when you spend more money because you went somewhere else. You don't win that. Exactly. You're just losing more money. So like if you were mad at a restaurant who sells at X prices, and then if there's a restaurant next door that you decide to go to, which is completely okay because this is America and capitalism rules, capitalism is amazing. So we can go next door, and where they have 2x prices, 2 times the prices, for some reason that's probably ridiculous, but for the same stuff, I don't know what restaurants I could be talking about because it's the same stuff, because all the restaurants are pretty much different. So, but you're not winning here. So I'm going to continue on. Trump tweeted, quote, "Our steel and aluminum industries and many others have been decimated by decades of unfair trade and bad policy with countries from around the world. We must not let our country, companies, and workers be taken advantage of any longer. We want free, fair, and smart trade," end quote. So I'm going to explain real quick why you can't have free, fair, and smart, because then it's not free. So I'm going to compare it to free speech. So if you have free speech, that means you can say almost whatever you want. This is what we have currently in America. Pray it doesn't go away because it might be on the verge of it. But continuing on, if you say that you need fair and smart trade, you can't exactly do that, because then if you look at speech, you have free speech, but it has to be fair and smart, which honestly that sounds like a good idea sometimes, but no. We need to have free speech, just like we need to have free trade. So if you went up and told somebody it has to be fair and smart, because I can tell you a lot of speech that I hear. I go to a public high school. I know that there is a lot of speech out there that is not smart. So that would be kind of stripping the freedom part of it. So if you said you can only be fair and you can only be smart, that kind of limits a lot of stuff. So because a lot of people aren't fair and a lot of people aren't smart. We all know that. So that's kind of a really good analogy. So also money we spend on other countries, we're going to talk about that. It's not exactly bad that we're spending money on other countries, because where do you think that money goes when countries spend money on the United States? It gets invested back into the United States because we have a different currency from everybody else. We United States of America are the only country that uses the US dollar. We have a different currency. So it gets most likely this money gets spent back into us or invested back into our economy. So I'm going to move on also to what Trump said. Another thing Trump said, he said, quote, "If you don't have steel, you don't have a country." Okay. And he also said that our steel industry is bad. Our steel industry is just fine. In fact, I'm going to point out that a lot of countries don't produce their own steel. I think one of the examples is Switzerland. They don't produce their own steel, but they're doing just fine. If you don't have steel, you still have a country. This is why you import goods from other places. Are you going to say that if oil is, I don't know, which one is used more, oil or steel? I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure it'd probably be close though. But if you say you don't have oil, you don't have a country, America might not have a country soon, because we got to invade everywhere that has oil. So, I mean, I don't think that if you don't have steel, you don't have a country, because like I just said, you can just import it from somewhere else where you can buy it from, and then you can also produce a good. This is called capitalism, and it's great now, isn't it? So basically, summing up today's episode, Trump doesn't know what he's doing, okay, with a lot of stuff sometimes. But going back to the gun things real quick. So the reason I'm not flipping out over what he said about guns, I am disappointed with what he said about guns, but why I'm not flipping out completely is because I know with Trump, based off experience with seeing what he's done, there is a huge difference between what he says and what he actually does. So noticing that difference before in the past, I think that this won't be that big of a problem. You know what I'm saying? So that's that. So I think that wraps up today. I've talked for 18 minutes. So I want to point out also, I saw a cereal at the store today, and it's really good. So my favorite packaged food is Oreos. I saw Oreo-O's in the store, and I had to get them. They're really good. I'm not advertising, I'm not being paid to say that, although I should be. But it's whatever. You guys should try out some Oreo-O's if you're a fan of Oreos. They're in stores. They used to only be in South Korea, but anyway, I will be back here next week with more news and more opinions from me, more things going on in the world that you guys should hear and continue to listen to. Also, more news for me about me. So I am starting YouTube to go on YouTube, and this will eventually be on YouTube too. So I'm uploading all of my previous 8 episodes that aren't on YouTube to YouTube, which is taking absolutely forever, and I hate it. It takes so long to get just a 17-minute video up on YouTube, and it is awful. And I can't imagine how long episode 8 that is an hour long is going to take to upload. But I'm moving over to YouTube, so if you guys prefer to check this out on YouTube, go for it. And those of you on YouTube, you guys can, if you would prefer to listen to me on podcasts, you can check me out on Apple Podcasts. That's where you all can find me. So that's basically it. I think I'm done here. I'll see you guys next Monday with more stuff. My name is Jason Riley, and this is the Riley Report.